Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2015 Cadillac SRX Luxury 2. Up front is a 3.6 liter V6, and down below is a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this Cadillac SRX for several reasons. First of all, this was one of the very first cars I ever reviewed. And it was actually the first car that I ever reviewed that wasn't at my own house. It was owned by my grandparents. And so there's a lot of nostalgia. It's been years and years and years, over a decade since I did that video. So I'm excited to redo it now. But the second reason is the fact that I think the SRX was kind of forgotten about. You actually get some pretty good features in here. So if you're looking to buy one secondhand, this is kind of a good car to do it. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that 3.6 liter V6. Well, it's not anything too crazy. This was kind of the bread and butter engine of Cadillac in the late 2000s and early 2010s. And if you want this thing to go, it'll go. Like, it's not a slouch. You see this compact SUV and you think, oh, you know, but you could actually make it move if you want to make it move. And I like that a lot. Like I said, paired to it is a 6-speed automatic. Nothing really too crazy here. Again, another sort of bread and butter drivetrain piece for Cadillac. It worked, and the later XT5s were updated to a 10-speed automatic, but this only got the 6. Last but not least, this particular SRX is front-wheel drive. However, you could find them in all-wheel drive during the era. So how does it feel to drive the Cadillac SRX? It's fine. Here we go. It sounds good doing it too. Like, it's kind of quick, and it has no right or need to be, but it is. That's kind of fun. You could see why, and I'll explain later, but I took one of these to prom. You could see why, as a kid, I thought this was like the coolest, most amazingest car in the world. It's not bad. The big advantage that the SRX has is that it's high up off the ground. So it's easier to get in and out of. You're not super down low like you would have been in like a CTS. And yet it still has that Cadillac ride. It rides nice. It's enjoyable. And it works well. This is Cadillac starting to get more into their SUV era, if you will, with this, and then they switched this to the XT5, and then they have the XT6, and now they're switching to all electric, so this has been replaced by the Optic. They have the Vistic and the Lyric. So lots to love here about the drivetrain of the SRX. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 4 gauges and a screen. Off to the left is my tachometer, in the center is a speedometer, and off to the right is the fuel and coolant temperature. And then we do get that little information screen down at the bottom that we can swipe through. On the steering wheel on the left, we do have our voice commands, cruise control, and heated steering wheel. And off to the right, we have our volume, skip track, and select for that gauge cluster screen. Off to the left, we do have a climate control vent, headlight switch, and gauge dimmer switch. And moving on to the door, we have our lock and unlock, power mirrors, and power windows. Underneath the window switches, you do get this dial for the rear tailgate to either turn it off, allow it to open up maximum, or only 3/4. So like if you have a small, tiny, short garage, it won't bonk the top. Moving into the center, we do get our infotainment display. Now this particular one has cracked somehow. No idea how, but it has cracked. And it is a touch screen, has Sirius XM, and it has a backup camera, which was nice for 2015. I've overall liked this screen, and I think it's aged semi-well. This is 11 years old, essentially, and I still think it looks relatively modern enough. Is it a brand new screen? No, but it also doesn't feel like an Atari. Down below that, we do get our volume slider. I remember thinking as a kid that this was so space age. We get a volume slider, we get our dual zone climate, fan speed, climate controls, heated seats, all nice to see there. Also, like the C7 Corvette of the era, if you press on this little thin bar, it will open up a secret storage compartment in the dash. CD player, hazard switch, traction control, and a big cubby in the center that houses a 12-volt outlet. Then we have the shifter, nothing too crazy here besides the wood accent at the top. I really like that. And off to the right, we have an eco button, as well as our parking sensors on and off. Then we do have cup holders, so we will do a big friggin' bottle test. And I am going to give this a pass because it has this really loose rubber outside that does bend and will allow the cup to actually fit. I've been driving around with it in here and it hasn't fallen over, it hasn't slid all over the place, so I will give the SRX for the first time a pass on the big friggin' bottle test. Then we do get a center console and the seats. The seats are heated and they are comfortable. Driver's seat is memory, all of that. Really, really nice to see. And they've been comfortable. You know, I don't think that they're the most comfortable seats I've ever sat in on God's green earth. They're also far from the worst. They're a nice middle ground, which I would expect out of a pretty middle ground vehicle of the SRX. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2015 Cadillac SRX Luxury 2, and a couple of things to note. First of all, down below, we do have a 12-volt outlet. We also do have a little flip-out cubby and climate vents. We have a center console here with 2 cup holders and a center console. We could flip that up. It's a nice place to be in. These seats back here actually feel softer than the front seats, which isn't always the case, but this is definitely a nice Cadillac experience, and that is what I'm always looking for. Even though this is a segment that is now so popular, compact SUVs are everywhere, they're running the world. Some would say ruining the world, but running the world. So you can't always find stuff like this in the back. So very, very nice to see that. Let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. Right around the back of the 2015 Cadillac SRX, we do have a button here on the key fob to power operate the tailgate. Once we are around the back here, not a crazy amount of space, but definitely a good amount of space. You do get this cargo stopper, I guess. You can unlock it and actually move it and reposition it, which is very cool. Here are the original manuals for the SRX. I love that very 2000s, almost like Transformers style font that they use, the Cadillac Q system. And then here is one of the original sales brochures, back when they actually did sales brochures, SRX. Love to see that. It has a look that appears effortless, but doesn't ignore the effort. Lines are sculpted, tail lamps and headlamps displayed like fine jewels. Yes, Cadillac, I'm sure. So here's some old literature from 10 years ago. Very, very fun. Of course, you could pause to read if you would like. I'm not here to read you a bedtime story, although if you wanted, you could do it in the SRX. Look at that. So, very, very cool. Take on sharp curves, sharp lines. So, there you go. Here are some options as well, some different wheel options, and then here are the full options for the Cadillac SRX. Very, very cool to see all of this stuff. So I always appreciate Richard has good literature in his Cadillacs, and the SRX is no different. There you go. You do get a privacy cover. You can lower it down here, bada bing, bada boom, just like that. Put it in here, and then you can go up with it. Very cool. There you go. Do have a button up here to close the rear tailgate of the SRX, just like that. Nonchalant, nothing crazy. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I don't love the look of the SRX. I think it is kind of awkward, just because it has that signature Cadillac styling, but up until this point, Cadillac styling had been almost exclusively sedans. Yes, there was a first-gen SRX, which I would love to review, and if anyone has one, please let me know. And yes, of course, they had the Escalade, but the Escalade always looked very different than the sedans. This almost looks like they were trying to apply sedan styling to an SUV. That's like putting my face on a jacked bodybuilder. It looks a little off. However, this is pinnacle macaroni styling for me. Macaroni styling is something that might not be outwardly pretty, but it gives you that warm sense of nostalgia, like a warm bowl of mac and cheese when you were a kid. That's exactly how I feel about this, because I have such strong nostalgia with an SRX, actually multiple SRXs, so I'll share that here in a second, but overall, it's a fine looking SUV. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving another SRX over a decade later? Well, I really do like this vehicle. I think the options in here and the tech and just the way that it drives is really, really good. And now that we've moved so far away from the SRX, it has been replaced twice over now. I think you could find these for relatively good deals on the secondhand market. And you're going to have heated seats, you're going to have cruise control and all of the nice Cadillac amenities in here. And you're going to have that more premium feel. And that driving feel is better than what we get out of most compact SUVs. Comparing this to a Mazda CX-5, that does not have the low-down torque that this does. Same with a RAV4 or Honda CR-V. This era of vehicle, or this size of vehicle, I should more say, never really got V6s in most vehicles. So to have a V6 in this size is actually really, really nice. And unfortunately, that later went away. But in this era, you could find a over 300 horsepower V6 in a compact SUV. That's not super easy to find. But it's here in the SRX, and I'm happy to show that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Richard and Josephine for letting me borrow their Cadillac SRX. This was so great. Relive my glory days and re-experience the SRX in all of its glory. They've been wonderful supporters of the channel, and I appreciate their help. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.